Yeah, that's good.
Boris, do you want to take over?
Yes, of course. So, hello everyone. New meetup, Scrum Wednesday. I want to say hello also to Ronald, our guest tonight. Ronald is a Scrum or professional Scrum trainer who is in his rich career trained many Scrum Masters, product owners, and contributed to many Agile transformation. Hello, Ronald.
Hi.
And as said, Agile Coach rockstar. Please don't take him serious if he denies that.
Okay.
Be shy.
So I was just waiting for more compliments and great introductions. I mean, go on. No, okay. Yeah. Well, thank you all for joining in, especially for people who are in the Netherlands, like Pablo, because I know the weather is like really good now, and we just heard on television that we are allowed to, loosen up a little bit more. We were already a pretty, how do you call that, like advanced country, as in the measures were not so strict in this country. And now it's getting even a little bit more loose. So we're happy with that. We're allowed to go out in the streets. And well, tonight we're inside, and you're going to be talking to me, listening to me, and hopefully collaborating also a little bit. Let me first share my screen. All right. So my guess is that you all see a kind of a purple slide with some pawns on it, and it says effective servant leadership. I'm also going to open the chat window so I can see if there's any. Where is the chat window? I don't see it. Oh, here it is. So if there's anything that you guys are afraid of saying, but you want to say it anyway to let me know, then just drop a message in the chat, as I will do too. I will monitor the chat. Yeah, and what was the title again, Bogdan, of this session? What nice title did you give it?
Agile coaching in a nutshell.
Wow, that's quite a promise. Oh, you will find out, everybody listen, you will find out that there is no nutshell big enough to fit Agile coaching in, okay? So one of the pain points that I had, and people that are in this session today who worked with me or alongside of me know that I had my challenges, I had my struggles to get into this thing called being a Scrum Master, and later on doing more advanced Scrum Master stuff that we like to call Agile coaching. And I'm hoping to, maybe with a couple of small exercises that I've prepared, that you can practice one or two small teasers to understand a little bit more the complexity of being a coach, okay? And then especially being a coach in an Agile environment, because that's the thing that I'm focusing on. So effective servant leadership. I want to help you to become effective in being a servant leader. This is me, and except for training for Scrum.org and helping companies to do some reorganizations and helping teams to just do proper Scrum. Well, what is proper Scrum? Help them to do some kind of Scrum. Next to that, I like to make fun of Scrum as well. So that's why I created this character called Coach, and he is my avatar. When I'm Coach, I can say whatever I want, and it should be very wrong about Scrum, preferably. So if you have suggestions about anything that you've encountered in your professional life with teams that you thought was hilarious, or something that really irritated you, please be so kind to mail that to me, or just send it to me so I can turn it into a comic. Thank you. And the next thing I do is, I created Scrum cards, and the Scrum cards is a way for maybe some novices, that people that start to explore the Scrum framework can use to use as flashcards or reference cards to better understand the Scrum framework. Because I was reading these pages of the Scrum framework on the scrum.org website and on the Scrum Guides website. And although the text is kind of easy to read, you know, everything that's not in the text, what's in between the lines, is what makes it so very difficult. Once I understood that it's all about feedback loops and being transparent and adapt and inspect all the time, I started to see how elegantly the Scrum framework was actually designed to get maximum of control on a complex process. And when I started to discover that, I kind of mapped it out on the wall, and I saw all these connections, and then I kind of decided it would be nice to share that. And what I did was put it into these Scrum cards for people to see how I see the Scrum framework, and maybe, you know, that's different from how you see it, but this was my contribution. So enough about me. We've got 2 hours of time, but I heard it's a soft 2 hours of time, which means I will just talk and we will do our exercises and have our discussions. And as soon as we think time's up, well, then time's up. Okay. And if you want more time, then, well, okay, we'll see what happens. But I think by 10 o'clock, I'll be pretty tired, and then I'll step out of it. But if you guys want to continue, then feel free, of course, do that. All right. I don't know if you guys know what Jamboard is, but it's a very easy, simple tool from Google. And for today's session, I have prepared a couple of pages and in the Jamboard. And I want to invite you all to, if you have a browser on your computer, and I suppose you do, to go to the link that I just posted in the chat. The chat window now has a link. If you click it, then you end up in, you don't need to log in, it's just a free tool, and it shows you a board. And that board has, let me see if I see people dropping in. Is it working, Boris and Bogdan? You're my main, yeah, can you see it? Okay, so on the left-hand side, there is this panel with a couple of tools. And the middle one is like the symbol for a sticky note. Well, I want you to invite to, it asked me for access data. Oh, maybe you're behind a firewall. Does anybody else get questions for access data?
I have got.
Hello. You need access. Ask
Yeah.
for access.
Me too.
Okay, wait a minute. Then I will change the share settings. It's probably, yes, okay, I see it now. Change. Okay. Anyone with the link? Copy link. No. All right, I will paste a new link then. I don't know if it changed, but now it says sharing, so probably it works better. Yeah, I see people coming in now. I see a Dumbo octopus joined. Well, whatever. And an anonymous kangaroo. All right, so you all see the board. So on the left-hand side, there's this list of icons, and the third one from the bottom is a sticky note. And I invite you to just click the sticky note and maybe try it out. Type a sticky note. As you can see, I just typed the word hello on a sticky note. And I would like to invite to just to have an idea of what kind of group of people I'm talking to, is to create a sticky note for yourself where you type in what your role is and how much experience you have in working with Scrum or Agile environments. Only view access, okay? Can't edit. Anyone? Everybody has access, but it's only, okay, wait a minute. I need to dive deeper. It's on its way. Yes.
Request rights.
Yes, I'm doing it now. Permissions updated. Maybe press F5, guys. Just refresh. Bogdan, can you try it for me to see if you can create a sticky note? Sticky notes? Okay. Yes, now I see stickies appearing. So it looks like I've managed to set the permissions right. Apologies for that. I should have done that beforehand. Okay, so if there's anything you want to say, just open your microphone and say it to me, okay? Hello world. All right, so please enter your role and your years of experience so that I have a bit of an idea of my audience. Oh, and by the way, on top of the in the top bar, it says clear frame. Please do not click the clear frame button because you'll just throw everything away in the trash and there's no undo button. Cool. Oh, and if there's anyone who wants to like start a background music, then be my guest. Now, while we're exploring this jam box, whatever it's called, tool, while you're typing and fooling around with your sticky notes, I need to draw your attention to the top navigation bar in the middle. You see two screens with two arrows going from being able to let you navigate from left to right, and it says 1/20. That's because when you click the navigate to the right button, you will see a different screen that we're going to use later on, and the screens all have a number. So you'll know that for later on. There's more screens, and you can navigate to them, browse through them. Right. So Stefan, role, experience 8 years, 3 to 5 years. All right. So I'm going to tell you that I'm focusing for becoming a better Scrum Master. I'm focusing on people who are like really doing this job for a while already. So I'm not keen on explaining the mechanics of the Scrum framework. I'm not interested in people who still need to who need to know how long planning should be. But I'm really interested in those people who are dealing with more tough things, like talking to the company owner or scaling up with a framework or dealing with reseating problems. Did you ever try to reseat a team, right? A team that was in one corner and then it had to move to the other corner of the room. And then those Java developers or whatever they were like making your life so miserable because they were really refusing to move from like 5 meters from left to right. Well, try to fix that. You know, those, it looks like a simple problem, but this is a very complex problem, by the way. Okay. Okay, 8 years of experience, 10 plus. Okay, looks good, guys. All right, let's forget about the Jamboard. I'm going back to where is my share? Here is my share. Okay. So thank you for joining or putting your name or your experience and your role on the Jamboard. Now, why are we here today? We are here today to talk about servant leadership and the difficulties related to that. To give you a little bit of context about how I came to think about the subject of, well, the calling I have actually to try to make people better coaches. So if you're looking at the PowerPoint slide that I'm sharing, there's this beautiful word called, I cannot even pronounce it, athelophobia. Okay, the fear of not being good enough. Now, I was raised in a family where I had a lot of freedom. That was because my parents had their own business. And they were, so I was very fortunate because I had to figure out everything by myself. But on the other hand, my father was a very strong, strict guy, and he didn't really care too much about kids. But what he did care about is that he would take care of them being successful later on. So he was a very powerful person at some point, where he really made his point on like getting good grades, or he raised the bar enormously. If I had a 9 out of 10, he asked like, why didn't you have a 10? We had this ranking in our school. I was always in the top 3 of the class, and he always asked me, so when are you going to make me happy and become first? I had that kind of dad. So you can imagine what kind of mental, thing I have in my brain. I always had the fear of not being good enough. Okay, thank you, Dad. Well, rest in peace. But anyway, that also gave me a lot of good things, because I became very motivated to try to make the best of everything that I put my hands on. And I always wanted to make things become a success. And in the beginning, when I was younger, I think up until, I don't know, 23, 24, I really was living a life to please my dad. And then at a certain point in time, I came into my mind that it was about high time that I would, make my own choices that would make me happy, instead of making choices that would make him happy. So I was living in Rotterdam at that time of my life, and I was studying general economics. And to be quite honest, I was in Rotterdam because my parents thought that Amsterdam was a dangerous city. And I was in Rotterdam doing general economics because they hated the idea that I would become a translator, a language translator. So I quit my economics study, and I had really bad grades anyway, so there was no option. And I started studying French language, and because I had some time left, IT was just coming up, and there was this new thing happening at the university, so I started studying information technology as well. And of course, you can imagine that really made my dad pretty sad, because I was changing course, and he had it all planned, and now I was doing this. I got myself a couple of tattoos to make him really sad, and well, we had a good life afterwards. Let me put it that way. But I made my own choices. And here I was, after a long, long, long time of doing development and whatever kind of stuff, I became Scrum Master. And I found out that being a Scrum Master is actually impossible. You have to know so much stuff. And there's so many stances, and then you have to know when to switch the stances. And it was just complex. I was, in the beginning, I don't know if you ever, I suppose before you've seen this picture, you have to be facilitator, coach, teacher, impediment remover. You can agree or disagree, but this is from Barry Overveen. And I guess he kind of coined it, and he nailed it in the beginning, when Scrum Master was still very vague, to say like, hey guys, this is all the different aspects of what you're busy with. And I did my PSM trainings, and I had my experience as a Scrum Master working with teams, but I still had this anxiety, this fear, because I was still struggling. A lot of time I was still struggling with many things. Okay, so and I made this drawing one day, and the purple me in the middle, that was when I started as a Scrum Master. And if I was thinking about what kind of impediments was I solving when I just started as a Scrum Master, and those impediments were actually inside me. I was really trying to understand what this Scrum Master role was all about. And once I got a little bit better in understanding what this was all about, there was some space left in my brain to work with the team, and to look at the team, and to help them with stuff. Just a little bit, but at least I was able to focus on the team. And once I had a team up and running a little bit, I understood the framework better. I knew a little bit better how to transform that knowledge into the knowledge in the heads of the members of a team and make them perform a little bit. And then I noticed that the impediments, once I had a team running, were like inter-team. There were multiple teams, and they caused problems for my team, and so I had to deal with these other teams as well. Ah, man! And then I got into scaling, right? So it became scaling problems, and after scaling problems, we had the rest of the organization who was like not being agile and was making my life miserable. And what I see happening is that once you have a good business agility and sales is not setting their own targets without knowing what IT is doing, you know, and you got all this alignment stuff going on. Once you got that organizational stuff going on, and it's all a little bit in place, then you will find out that there is people that provide stuff for your company or buy stuff from your company that are going to need some kind of interface or integration with the way that you're working. So your impediments when your organization is running pretty smooth with business agility, your impediments will come from the outside of your organization. So this whole life that I lived as a Scrum Master is just actually full of failure. All right, it's solving impediments. It's failing all the time. It's running against the boundary and trying to fix those problems in the next boundary. And basically, I got really demotivated. At first, when I discovered what Scrum Mastership was all about, I tore my CV, my curriculum, I threw it away. I wrote a new one because this was this thing that I was doing all the time. This was why I was such a lousy developer. This was why I was not such a very good infrastructure specialist. It's because, okay, I was in a specialist team, but I was making the team predictable. I was helping the team to structure their work. I was a process guy, man. And that's what I learned when I saw the Scrum framework. But then when I became the full-time Scrum Master, I just got very depressed because it's this Woody Allen quote. Yeah, I don't know if you know what Woody Allen said, but Woody Allen, he's a dirty man, okay? But he did have one good quote and a couple of movies. But he said, like, once you get what you always wanted, or something like that, once you get what you always wanted, you find out that it was not what you wanted after all. Okay, and that's what I had when my Scrum Mastership was finally there, and I was happily trying to coach some teams or, you know, doing some scaling. I was getting frustrated because I was always dealing with problems. People were always complaining. I always had to solve shit, you know? And this is not a very, I mean, how many times you can start monitoring your own successes to motivate yourself a little bit, because there's nobody who's going to give you this tap on the back saying, yeah, you're doing a good job, Roland. Everybody's always complaining. You have to always solve problems. And that kind of made me sad. And I also noticed that I was mainly working with people, because learning the Scrum framework and then, you know, being a guy who's got PSM1, PSM2, PSM3, or PST, like I am, what the hell is that? What the hell is this? What are we trained for? Think about it. What do you learn when you do PSM1? You learn about a framework. What do you do when you learn PSM2? Oh, well, the training is about facilitation, PSM2, but the exam is still about, you know, decisions you have to make that are process oriented. And they make it a little bit more difficult by giving you cases. What do you do when this stubborn Java developer does blah, blah, blah? And then you have to use your own wisdom to try to give the correct answer based in the context or within the context of transparency, inspect, and adapt, the Scrum framework. So we're being taught how to solve problems by looking closely at what the process tells us, what the framework tells us. But hey, man, processes are things that we implement for people, okay? Processes are nothing if there is no people to work inside those processes. So it's a people thing. I started to realize my frustration came from being inapt, being inadequate in dealing with people. I am a process guy, and damn, the process is just a detail. It's all about people, okay? that helped, knowing that, because this opened a new doorway, and I started to look for people-oriented training. So I was focusing on following trainings myself, on you know, more like in the psychology area, real coaching stuff, like how do you coach a person that's really depressed. And then when you take that information and put it back into the context of an agile or transformation, that's peanuts. Those people are not committing suicide. They're just spoiled and they don't want to change, man. So to me, this was brilliant. And then, hey, man, it worked for me. I really think that I have become a better person in being a Scrum Master by getting those coaching trainings. But the coaching trainings are like, they bring you a lot of stuff you don't need at all as well within the context of our work. So I thought, like, hey, what if I just mix and match those two, right? We have the agility, the business side of things, and there's this very strong people thing that we need to develop. What if I put it into a blender and then create something new out of that? And that's this ESL thing that I'm presenting to you right now. Well, to make a long story short, this is what are, well, the 3 Ps. I don't know if you ever heard about them, but we're mainly focusing on these two, right? We're trying to, as Scrum Masters, fix a process, and we try to convey the purpose, which is product. Okay, so product backlog management is the purpose. We have a roadmap. We want to get in touch with customers and collect their feedback. That's the purpose why we are here. That's what pays our bills. Okay, that's why we are being paid as Scrum Masters or team members. So there's process and there's purpose. But this guy here, the people part, I'm not seeing it represented well enough in all the Scrum Masters that I train myself for Scrum.org. I don't see it well enough represented in being aware in the heads of people that I work with. And I fail all the time in doing this properly as well, even though I had a couple of trainings. It's so damn difficult to be good with people. And we're going to experience that as well ourselves later on. All right. I want to talk about goals. Just before you guys entered, we were talking about problems, and we were talking about challenges instead of problems. And I put one level up on that, and I don't want to talk about problems. I don't want to talk about challenges. I want to talk about goals. And I want you to let that sink in for a second, because actually think about the relationship between problems and goals. If you have a problem, right, and if I would talk to Galina, I'm just saying Galina because you're the first one on my screen, so I hope you don't mind. So if Galina would have a problem and she would come to me, and I'm her Agile Coach or Scrum Master, and she says, Roland, I really have a problem with this team, okay? Then what we could do is, and I've done this for years. I mean, spreadsheets full of data I collected to find out root causes for problems that I had with teams, and trying to figure out what would be the best thing to do in the context of Scrum and Agile. But I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but you're looking in the past when you do that. And looking in the past is good because it gives you the empirical data on which you can inspect and on which you can adapt, you know, and set a new step forward. But complex problems are complex. It's a web of problems. And I got myself stuck into analyzing those problems because, one, I was analyzing them in the wrong way. I was drilling down, right? I was trying to find the root cause, the one root cause, the big root cause, which is the root cause of everything, all the problems, which does not exist, okay? So that was wrong. And secondly, and you can solve that by systems thinking, by the way, by thinking holistically, outside instead of inside. And the second problem was that you're looking back, right? And you're turning yourself into this spiraling down negativity of digging yourself deeper into finding problems. Why? Like the way that I started my session tonight, telling about my father, giving me this problematic background, relatively small but still problematic start of my life. I can go to a shrink for that, right? And I can talk about it for hours and try to fix that problem in my head. But I could also set new goals. Forget about the problem. What is the goal that you want to go for? You could formulate a goal as in, well, Galina, your problem with the team is, well, instead of knowing and understanding exactly how this complex problem is constructed, we could also talk about how would you want that your team functions? What would be the goal that you have with this team? And then maybe Galina says, well, I would like my team to be more happy. Ah, okay, cool. Now, if your goal is for you to make your team more happy, bring cake. Right? Just start small, do something. And then from having that goal and then doing experiments to see what works best, right? That's brilliant, because you switch from trying to fix a problem and collect feedback from the past to see if your fix worked. You can, tell a story to your team and talk about a goal that you want to reach instead of delving so deeply into this problem. And my experience is that when you set goals, instead of trying to drill down in problems, when you set those goals, then those problems will reveal themselves. They will either solve themselves or they will become more clear to you, because you're changing something that is related to the problem area, right? But you're looking forward and you're looking for something new. You're doing something positive, something optimistic. And I can tell you from experience that learning something new or doing something new by being stimulated by someone that tells you, wow, this was awesome, and giving you like the promise of a nice cake on Tuesday, that works very well for me. And it works much better for me, actually, than the depressing guy that keeps on beating me up, telling me I'm still not good enough. All right. So that's goals. Goals are very closely related to problems. All right. Now, the Jamboard has got like multiple slides. I don't know if you've found already that there is this clickable arrow icon on the top. And I made a couple of, slides, like I've numbered them 1 to 15. And what I want you to do is to form groups. I will start formation of groups using Zoom. And then with your group, you choose one of those boards. And please make sure that each group selects their board, right? I don't care which board you take, but if the board is taken, then you just click to next, find a board that's empty, and then start working there. I'm sure you'll be able to manage and self-organize to find a board to work on. Now, what are we going to do on this board? Yeah, I'm not going to do the team representatives. I'm just going to see how it works for us to self-organize. How many people do we have in total? Can somebody help me here?
35, so 32.
32.
35. It's written.
35. Okay, so then let's make 7 groups of 5 people. Okay. And then let me see. How do I do this? Hey, how come I don't have Bogdan? I don't see group
breakout rooms. They're with me. Do you want me to make them?
Yes. So I would like you to make breakout rooms because and that would be 7 rooms for 5 people.
Okay.
Yeah. And then so the question I have for you is to formulate your goals as a Scrum Master or coach. So I don't want you to enumerate or tell me all the problems that you're dealing with, but I'll be more interested in what you want to achieve. What is your goal? So think about it for yourself and start creating stickies and then discuss those stickies with the 5 people that are in your group. Will I be allowed, can you make me maybe co-host so I can go to the rooms as well?
You are already.
But then why can't I start?
No idea. Maybe we'll see.
Anyway, if that doesn't work, then you are going to have to do that for me, Bogdan. So what I want you to do, if I cannot do it, is you.
I think it might be a solution if Bogdan give you to be as the host of this.
Yes. I will transfer host to you. That helps. Let me just do it in a moment.
Okay.
And before breakout, Fini.
So
you are now your host. Yeah.
Am I? Breakout rooms. Yay! Okay. 7 rooms. Okay. All right. I'm going to put you guys in rooms. So is there anybody who is still unsure what to do? You can ask now. Just speak up. Raise the hand. So Shitanshu, tell me what's your question?
Actually, I missed a few parts because of bad connectivity. That's why I was not sure what you are asking to do.
You're not sure what I asked. All right. So what I would like you to do is to formulate on sticky notes on the Jamboard, together with a couple of other people, what your goals are for as an Agile coach or as a Scrum Master. What are your goals that you currently set for yourself? So I can imagine that maybe when you have 3 years of experience, that you set your goal in the context of coaching teams, right, and working with teams and organizations. Maybe you set your goal to work with more teams, or maybe your goal is to better understand the dynamics of feature teams, or maybe your goal is to understand better how to work with remote teams, stuff like that.
Got that. Yeah, got that. Yeah, thank you.
Oh, good. Well, here you go, guys. I will pop in the rooms to see if there's any other questions. Excellent. And other people are more talking about goals that they have with their teams, which is also excellent. And we'll see what's most valuable later on. Maybe when we dive into skills, we find out that, you know, total different ball game than if you compare that to having a team goal and what skills do you need for that team goal. But it's good to explore those areas, and you know why? Because we're going to learn today as well that, oh, sorry, wait a minute. I see someone, what's happening? Chat. Okay, I need to talk later, Boris. Okay, good. Yeah, so one of the main conclusions that I drew actually is I really needed to learn a lot more about myself before I could become better at helping others. And that sounds very simple and like, yeah, we all know that already. But really, it's true. I was always the guy who got kicked out after a couple of months when I was in Agile transformations. I was the Scrum Master who got fired, and I was proud of it because I was because I was doing the change, man. I was a change agent, and of course, those stupid fucks, they don't want to change, right? They're just nothing, right? It's all their problem. But I kind of, matured a little bit in that, and I think by working more on myself and understanding better who I am and how I operate, I learn better how to choose which energy I want to use in which situation, and that is essential for being a good coach. And you don't learn that when you do PSM2 or PSM3, right? PSM2 is about facilitation, PSM3 is about knowing the Scrum framework better and how to apply it in practice, but you don't learn anything about how to know yourself and how to deal with people. So that's why, you know, I wanna bring that out to the people to learn about that stuff. Hey, and let's do something simple. Let's have a look at conversations. Now, as you can see, I've created, or I took a slide of a modern form of conversation that we all tend to, we're gonna have to get used to it. You wouldn't say it, you know, you can't see it, but these people are really talking to each other. Really, they are, yes. Now, the first perspective, and this is a little bit systems thinking as well, we're going to look in different ways at the conversation. And one of the ways that we're looking at the conversation right now, so the first one was just an observation, right? Oh, these people are standing there, they look like they have something, but there's this mouth thing, but we think they're talking, they're having a conversation. We assume they do. Now, there are different positions in the conversation. And the first position in the conversation is when I talk to you and I talk about something and I tell you things. That's my, well, a preferred stance that a lot of people take. An easy stance as well. It's safe, it's close to yourself, and you talk about what you feel, what you think. You talk about yourself, I. Okay? Then there's also a way to talk to people and you forget a little bit about yourself and you talk about you all the time. And I'm not saying you do this and you do that and you whatever. That's also a way of saying you in a conversation, but that's not the kind of you I'm pointing at. I would like to understand a little bit better what's going on in the other person. So I'm being empathetic and I'm trying to, you know, whatever thing I do and I say, I'm trying to approach that from the other person's point of view. I'm taking that into account. So the first one was I, the second person position is you, and then there's this other position, it's called, and then that's the meta position, it's us. And it makes a lot of sense if you're into a normal conversation with your wife, with your kids, with your parents, whoever at work, to be more aware of the positions you're taking. And I want to invite you to do an exercise on that. But this is going to maybe be a little bit problematic. Now, I'm not quite sure. I'm looking at Bogdan for this one as well. If I make breakout groups now with pairs of people, will we lose the other breakout groups? We probably will. Yeah. Didn't see that one coming. Okay. Anybody has a solution for this problem? Oh, let's set a goal. So the issue that I'm talking about is that if I let you guys work in pairs, we probably will lose the groups. So I'm not going to do that. So because of this, we're going to keep the current rooms, and I want to ask you to do the exercise in the groups that we just assigned, because otherwise it's going to be very messy later on. Okay, what is the exercise all about? It's a pretty simple exercise. One person is going to ask another person, and he's going to try to borrow somebody else's car. Okay, and the first time around, I want I want you to take the I position. So one person is going to talk to another person and say, I need to borrow your car for this and that reason, and blah blah blah. What I want you to do is to observe inside of yourself how that feels. Once you've done that, and you can discuss it in the group, how it felt, and the others maybe who are listening can ask. And then maybe two other people can have the same conversation, but then we do it in the second position, okay? So the person who's talking, who wants to borrow the car, is going to approach the other person not saying, I want to borrow your car, but he's going to use as many times you as possible in the conversation. Put the other person in the center of the conversation and then see how that feels and the difference that it brings you. Okay. And then we need to know what's easier, position 1 or position 2 to get what you want. Any questions on this exercise? No? Cool. Then I will start the breakout rooms. This will take about, well, maybe 7 minutes or so, and then we'll come back here. Okay. So good luck and have your conversations. I think everybody's kind of back in the room. Now, I heard some nice, interesting things. And maybe it's a good one to just share one or two. Maybe it's good to just share one or two experiences that we had. And I would like to invite Maria, if you could share your beautiful remark that you made when I was just in your room, because your solution for position number 2 was actually a very good one. I liked it.
Well, sure. I was just thinking that we should do a little bit of emotional blackmail. Well, it should go like this. Remember how you felt the last time you had to go to the city and you didn't have a car, and I loan you mine. So I'm kind of in this position right now. Can you loan me your?
Yeah,
Something
excellent.
like that, in a nicer way. Yes.
Yeah. Yeah. So, but what's happening when you're, I don't know if you guys did multiple role plays or just one conversation, but what's happening if somebody talks to you and he wants something from you, or she wants something from you, and she keeps on talking to you in the I position, I want this, or I, then there is no emotional connect. There's no incentive whatsoever that brings you to empathize for this person. You think like, yeah, you got a problem, you just go and fix it, right? I could do it, I can do it not. But if I care a little bit about my car, then probably I will not share it with you. Okay. Second position, in the example that Maria gave, that has to do with empathy. That makes me a part of the problem, and it connects, and it will make me more open to collaborate with you. And the main reason why I wanted to do this simple exercise is because we need to, we could be more aware of the positions that we take in our conversations. And the debrief that we are doing now, talking about this little exercise, is actually the meta position, right? We're now in the third position, talking about this conversation that we just had. And one of the things you can do tomorrow when you're back at work is to use the meta position strategy. When you are in a conversation and you feel that there is something not quite optimal, maybe there is some tension, maybe there is some emotion, maybe there is a repeating pattern that you notice with somebody. For instance, maybe somebody just goes chatting all the time. It's a lot of information, right? Like, and you've seen this before, this pattern. Then what you can do is move to the third position. Instead of focusing on the content of what a person says, right? A coach actually never focuses on the content. I repeat, as a coach, you should actually never focus on the content, but you should focus on the process of the conversation. And by going to position 3, you are really deliberately taking the people with you in the room out of the conversation, out of the content, into the process. For example, you'd say, hey guys, what's happening here? Do you notice what's happening here? You're talking a lot, aren't you? You're really using a lot of words. And are you noticing this too, or am I the only one who's observing this? Now I'm talking about the process of the way we are communicating and not about the content of what this person was saying, which is a very, very powerful tool that we use a lot as coaches. And if you don't, give it a try tomorrow. It will work. So yeah, you can use.
So, sorry, how can we use this tool? Because like, should we ask questions in order to be focused on the process of conversation?
Oh, well, no. I would say train yourself, or try to train yourself a little bit into being more focused on the process of the conversation or the session instead of the content. Because I know a lot of Scrum Masters who discuss the content. They have an opinion on what is good coding, or they have an opinion on velocity, or they have an opinion on whether this team is performing good or not good. And although you may have an opinion as a coach, it's not for you to decide what's good or bad. It's not for you to tell people what to do or not to do. It's not about the coach, it's about the people. And the tools that you've got is not to discuss what good coding is, right? The tools is not to discuss content. The tools that you got as a coach is to show people what the process is like. And I'm not talking about the Scrum process. I'm talking about the process between humans, interactions. If you see somebody having a certain behavior, then it's your job as a coach to make that a subject of discussion. Right? Make people understand what the consequences are of their behavior. And you can do that by not discussing what they do, but in a meta level, let them observe themselves. I hope I clarified it a little bit better.
So if I understood correctly, it's about meta position, yes? So to
Yes.
be kind of observator of what is happening around and show this person. For example, if in a team it's bad communication, you can just show your team like showing them this communication.
Yeah. That's the idea.
Okay.
So what if you are the Scrum Master and we are in a session, and maybe it's a retrospective or it's planning. Well, let's take retrospective. And there are two developers, and they get into a heavy debate on choices they need to make for architectural improvements. Right. So we've got this improvement proposal that they want to improve something. This is a retrospective, and they're going to do an architectural improvement in the code. And there's one guy who says, I want red. And the other guy says, that's very stupid, we need to go blue. And they really go into a harsh discussion, right? Then your job as a coach is not to choose for either red or blue, right? Or, it's not about the content. Your job is to tell those people, hey guys, hold on. Look what's happening here. Do you guys see what's happening? You're actually fighting over things, okay? Let's discuss this for a minute. Now, what would be another way to approach this? What do we need to do to get to common ground? Okay, then you're talking in this third person, the meta level. You're not interfering into the content of the discussion, whether to choose blue or red. All right. Now there's another way that we can look at conversations. So we just discussed about three positions. The I, the we, and the you. But this is also a way to look at conversations. Again, we're looking at what is being said, and we're going to interpret it. So can anybody share an observation about what this girl says to this teammate of hers? So the girl is a Scrum Master, and the guy with the curly hair is a developer. And the Scrum Master says, listen, I've been there before. What you need is a burn down. Now, what do we feel with this? Is anybody wants to share their observation?
Well, it's a bit belittling.
Yes, excellent. Now, what's happening here is that this girl is taking a position. This is a different kind of perspective on conversations, right? A new way of looking at it. But she's taken a position of being a parent. She's like a parent telling to a kid what to do. And I can tell you, for very immature teams, this is an excellent strategy. It's command. You tell people what to do. Right? But in a lot of cases, it doesn't really work, okay? Because there might be a very strong disconnect. It depends all on what the curly guy wants, right? If the curly guy wants to play the role of a kid, being an immature team member, it will work. But if the guy doesn't want to do that because he also feels like he's a mature adult, you're going to get into trouble with saying things like this, right? This is a parent position. But now, what is the response? The response is of the developer, we're so busy, and nobody else makes burn downs either. Now, that is a very childish answer, isn't it? It's like everybody in the class had a bad whatever review or whatever. Now, this is also this is not a very
answer.
Sorry?
That's a very common answer.
Yes, but it's not an answer of a mature adult. It's an answer of
she's not treating him mature.
Oh, okay. So here we see a source for friction in communication. This is coming from transactional analysis, and it has to do with the positions that we take, right? We can be an adult, we can be a kid, or we can be a parent. And it makes a lot of sense for us as coaches to, one, be very aware of how we say things, right? Because we want to talk to people as mature adults. That's the best way. Everybody at the same level, talking to each other, being adults. And if we observe people talking like parents to kids, right, then it's excellent practice to observe that and to go into this third meta position and then show it to people. How do you feel when people are talking to you like that? I feel like my father is telling me blah, blah, blah. Yes. Does that feel good? No. Dear Scrum Master, do you think you're going to be very effective with this strategy if you're going to be parenting around all the time?
Scrum Mama.
So here you go. So this is the second way of looking at these conversations, right? We have parents, adults, and children amongst each other. That's perfect. You know, parents amongst each other. That's excellent. There's no problem there. But as soon as parents and adults and children are going to like communicate with their ways of communicating to each other without being clear about the position that they expect other people to take, then you're in trouble. All right. Now there's a third way that I want to teach you about conversations. So I'm spending a lot of time on conversations, and the reason why I had to make choices. In a minute we will see how vast coaching is if you look at skills and subjects that we need to study. But this is like stuff that you can bring to work and make practical, and it's just a teaser, one little tiny corner, you know, of all the stuff that we should be discussing when you want to be an effective servant leader. Now, this approach for looking at conversations is about what I told before already, to be aware of that there is this process thing. And the process is what we focus on. We want to stay away from the content. Yeah? We're not discussing the content because we leave the content to the people who know about about their content. But we do also think about structure. Structure is more of when you're going to facilitate a session and you're going to prepare it, then your preparation for the session is your structure. Okay, and it's best that you communicate that structure maybe with an agenda, but the details of the structure, why you chose that structure and all that kind of stuff, that's coaching stuff. That's your level of your matter of expertise. So you're not going to discuss structure details with the people. If things don't work, okay, then you're free to collect feedback, of course, but the structure is your domain. Content is the domain of the people that you're facilitating, And the process is where these two things meet actually during the session. Yeah. So I have this blinking thing in the chat. Wait a minute. Let me see what this is quickly. Okay, good. So Bogdan, remember that I asked you if there's anything, because I'm not continuously following the chat, if there's anything that I need to pay attention to, then please tell me, okay?
We were just shout out to games that people play and Eric Berne.
Okay. All right, so the coach focuses on process. I'm quickly, because I see we're running out of time already. Wow. Hey guys, skills. What do we need? Skills. We need a vast amount of skills to do our jobs properly. Now, I would like to invite you again to go to your Jamboards and enumerate in maybe no more than 4 minutes all the skills that you think you need to do a proper job, to be an effective servant leader, to be an awesome coach. Okay? Is there any question about this? No? Good. Then I will start the breakout rooms. It's going to be 4 minutes only. Discussing what skills do you think a good coach needs. Here we go. Okay, welcome back. Yeah, sorry, I had to cheat a little bit on the timer. That's true. I admit I'm guilty. All right, so skills. We are full of biases. We're full of assumptions. We communicate poorly. You know, we're doing this all without thinking. We hardly know ourselves. We don't know the other. So what kind of skills do we need to compensate for all this problematic behavior that we all have? Yeah, I've seen some good things being written down. I want to add to that that I think what is essential is that you discover your own coaching style. You have to find out who you are and to be able to let go of that. Anything that triggers you, to let go of that. You know, to be stronger than that and to stay in the process instead of getting drawn into some internal conflict. I was at a job recently, and it was just before the lockdown. And the Scrum Master, I was explaining to the Scrum Master what was going to happen with the anticipated change. And halfway, I don't know, I was talking about 5 or 6 minutes. I was showing data of stuff. I was not being like anything stupid or silly. I was just showing data of what people in the teams told me and feeding that back. And this Scrum Master really got very upset with me. And I got upset as well because I felt that it was a personal attack to me. And the reason why I had very strong emotions, because the Scrum Master had very strong emotions towards me, the Scrum Master told me, I don't like you. From the moment that you came in here, you hated your gut because you have a large mouth and you think you can just walk in here with all your so-called experience and change things around. So this person was really, really, really upset and ready to fight with me. And I was getting upset as well. So I had a dry mouth and I had sweaty palms and I was, what is this? And the reason why I had this is because I have this unmet need that I want to be loved. I have this unmet need that I want to be, you know, successful. I want people to like me. I really want people to like me. And if I cannot control that emotion with this person, you know, then I will be drawn into my own emotions and deal with those. It's like the circles with the Scrum Master thing, you know, trying to remove impediments. Well, coaching level number 1, control me. That's it. Control me. So I have to find space in my head to think about what's the problem that this person has, right? Why is this person so upset with me? What is this unmet need of this person? So I can focus on saying the right things to help that person that is so upset, instead of, you know, going to some kind of defense mode of myself and getting angry. So what skills do we need? Well, guys, we need a huge amount of skills. I don't know if you know this Agile Coaching Growth Wheel. I looked at it for a while, and I didn't like it too much. Well, I like it. I like a lot of things in it, but I didn't like the way knowing yourself, and you know, all this would be knowing yourself, and then all of this would be, what is it, organization. You know, those red parts, they didn't make sense to me at all. The yellow parts were in the wrong place. So I felt like this could use an update. So I kind of used this as an inspiration and added some stuff to it, and created a donut, I call it. And it has a couple of areas of attention. And the main one in the bottom, the pink one, is key. Learn yourself, right? So I want to help people to learn better how their inner selves work. Some basic stuff, psychology, right? You need to have some psychology knowledge to do this job that we're doing. And let's face it, we're all amateurs. We never did any psychology studies. Well, one or two exceptions. Most of us don't. We just work on processes, don't we? Right? Now, once you know yourself a little bit, you can maybe work a little bit on the individual level. That is coaching somebody else, help somebody else, help develop other people, and continue to go towards teams. That's, you know, you see the complexity growing, right? Yourself, individuals, teams, and then on the blue part, organization. Whoa, it's even more, and business, because hey man, we need to make money, so we need to be good at coaching people that are designing stuff, and that's more than just knowing how to facilitate brainstorm sessions, but it's really helping them to unlock creativity, and that's a different ballgame. I haven't seen this before, being so, you know, I see that I need it, because I run into companies where they're one-track ponies called product owners, and they're not creative at all. They're not busy with making the best product or whatever. They're just, I don't know what they're doing. They're busy managing backlogs. That's what they do. That's their purpose. Yeah, so I've added those aspects, and the main differences are in the circles, I think. So at individual level, developing people, yourself, learning. The learning is in the self part, because we really need to learn how to learn. And that sounds silly maybe, but it's about knowing better who's inside you, if you catch my drift. Because I'm going to talk about this later on. I'm skipping. But you have to learn yourself. Now, all these skills and competencies, I think we need to practice them. So I believe in experiential learning. So I don't think it works. So I did a couple of those Agile coaching trainings. I don't know if you've ever been in one. And then we talk a lot about things. We talk a lot about people, and we talk a lot about how to deal with situations. I think that's bullshit. You have to do it. Because if I put you on the spot and I get you in a position where you start sweating like an ox because you're in pain and you're in trouble, that's when you're going to learn something, okay? So learning coaching is about confronting yourself with these very difficult emotions and finding out if you also had a dad with high expectations. That's what a coaching training should be about, if you ask me. So this gives a little bit of an idea on how the spread is of all these skills, how I think people would be helped if they get this dose of information in this dose, you know, in this spread, because it doesn't make sense to teach a lot about teaching. I mean, we need to understand the basics of neuroscience. We need to understand training from the back of the room. We need to understand that people who, you know, they cannot keep up focus, and that we need to be interactive and all that kind of stuff. But that's just basic material, okay? So we'll cover that. We make sure everybody knows, checking the box, done. So there has to be this basic level of didactics, but that's not the main focus, I think, where we would get most benefit from to become a good servant leader.
Sorry, can you repeat what ESL means?
Yeah. Can anybody repeat what ESL means? It has to do with servant leadership, man. Effective servant leadership. Yep. So it's just it sounds good, right? ESL, but it's effective servant leadership. So I didn't want to talk about agile coaching too much. This is for agile coaches, but this is also important for managers, and it's also important for Scrum Masters. And I think the essence of what the message that I'm trying to convey is that it's about being a good servant leader. What do you need to be effective as a servant leader? Well, you need to know yourself. You need to understand psychology. You need to know about transactional analysis. You need to know about, agile transformations as well. You need to know about facilitation, but you can learn that with Barry Overveen in PSM2. So there's this whole mix of things, like I showed you in the donut, that you need to learn to become effective as a servant leader, be it in the role of a Scrum Master, be it in the role of an Agile coach or an Agile manager. So what influences the effectiveness? I think this is about 70% or more. Knowing yourself is and then of course there's a lot of data, a lot of knowledge that you can just acquire, solution-oriented psychology is a very good tool that will help you to reach your goals and to become effective as a servant leader. The way that we studied the conversations just now, the 3 forms of conversations and different levels of looking at perspective of looking at it, is going to help you. It's a good tool, but it's useless if you don't know yourself. Now, to conclude
Sorry,
this
just
session.
a quick question, Roland. There's a comment. James didn't find the ESL easily on the internet. Can you make it available, or is it just in the making? Where can we find it?
So that's good because I didn't Google it. Hey, yeah, I will. What I will do, I can share a PDF that contains an overview of everything that we've discussed and a little bit more. So you can have another look at it. And it's true, it's not really something that exists out there yet, because yeah, it's in the making. Well, in the making, it's kind of made, and I'm trying to put it out in the world now. So you're a witness of like a new start in careers of agile coaches and everybody to talk about, real servant leadership, effective servant leadership. And yeah, I've scheduled the training starting on September 16th this year. I still need a little bit of more time to do some dry runs, to take off some sharp edges, but I've got most of it covered. What I did is I took a subset of people that I trust very dearly and have very high, I see them as very good Scrum Masters or Agile coaches. And I bombarded them with a series of questions to verify my assumptions. So that part is all done already. And that allowed me to come to, well, to stuff like this. The data that I use to decide on how much I would put into the curriculum of certain aspects of the coaching frame or coaching donut is based on data that I've got from colleagues. Now, there's a lot of people inside you, so don't worry. This is the last part that we're going to discuss. I hear voices in my head. You too, I hope. Okay, it's an internal dialogue, and it's going on forever. And I have this one little voice, right? That is a certain kind of person who always tries to make things simple. Watson, right? Like, so what's the problem? It's easy, he's going like this, it. And there's this rebellious kind of person in me as well. So there's a lot of different personalities in me. And I know there's a lot of different personalities in you as well. And I've been working a pretty long time with Cesario Ramos. He's a great guy. He's a very experienced guy, and he's also a pretty good coach, actually, I must say. And he started to point that out for me, because he told me that I was a very, very unreliable partner, and he meant that I was not unreliable as a person. But when you bring me in front of a crowd, that's what he said, then it's you're like, it can go anywhere. It's difficult. And you need to read the crowd, Roland. That's what he always said. You need to read the crowd. But what he actually meant, what I understood, was that I have to choose my persona wisely. So the one person that I put in the driver's seat when I get into a room, I need to choose that person wisely, and I need to stick to it. And there is a lot of people inside me. There's probably one person or maybe two that are very strong in me. And they're my default mechanisms. They're my default people, my default choices that I make. And that's good to have those, because they made me to what I am now. They made me relatively successful in what I do. But there's like a bunch of them behind that are not so visible, that have very good qualities as well. And in certain situations, it makes more sense to have those people drive the bus with all the people in my head instead of my default driver. Now, I want to invite you to take a minute and think for yourself who it is inside of your head. Who's your best friend that you can rely on, who always helps you out when you're in front of a class, or when you have to do a workshop, or when you have to do a difficult conversation? And then ask yourself, can you describe this person? What's he like? What are his traits? What are his pitfalls? And you can find out, if you're not sure who it is, then think about one of the moments that you recently had where you were really under stress. Like the story that I told you with the Scrum Master that was attacking me. I was thinking to myself that I should not let my default fighter come up. Right? It was not the time to start fighting and fighting back to gain respect, because that's what I am. Okay, I need you to respect me. That was not the right moment. So I took somebody else to drive the bus. So think about your moment of stress that you had recently. And maybe you want to share, if you dare, who your favorite persona is inside you. It could also be like, how do people describe you? If you think about how would people describe me, maybe a happy person, or maybe a sad person, or a strict person, or a very, I don't know what kind of person, then maybe that's your main persona. Okay. Anybody who wants to share for the group who it is they hear inside their heads? You don't have to. I want you to be aware that Bogdan is saying yes.
I'm afraid that I typically default to competitive stance. So if there's blood in game, that's fun for me. So if there's nothing to be won, I won't bother as much. So if something that's good for the challenging things, good for doing things that are out of the box or require some action, but if I have to just idle or just do anything that's, let's say, not as interesting, that can be, well, conflicting.
Yeah, good one. Anyone else?
Yeah, so my default would be my 10-year-old self, in the sense that it's a little boy, or well, average boy who's fearless, and he's always under pressure, really creative. So I'm not trying to say I'm childish, which might be true, might not be true.
You're playful.
Yeah. So in that sense, under pressure, I always find the silver lining in that sense, but also have the creativity to find out of the box stuff. Also, I'm fearless. So if anybody attacks me or tries to attack me, I go full in. So my colleagues used to give me the nickname Shark or Crowbar, in the sense that I don't shy away from conflict, which is cool. But I get that from my childhood, when I was fearless and not really, aware of the consequences that it might go bad. So in that sense, yeah.
I think for most people it will be a person that they know for a very long time already, and probably from the childhood or maybe early puberty. That makes sense. Yeah. So, but the next slide is also interesting. So this is about since when do you know each other? That's childhood, right? And think about, like you just said, Stefan, the advantages that this person brings you creativity, thinking out of the box, being fearless, and all that. So those are beautiful things to be aware of yourself. And it's good to be able to switch that mode on and off, because there's at least 10 other drivers in your head that you can give control over the steering wheel. And it's all about learning to switch deliberately. And if you master that, man, you're going to be so effective. But wait a minute, there's a caveat. There's also people who irritate you. There's also people that really instantly you don't like, that upset you. They're in your allergy zone, 100% allergy. Those are the people that you've cast away. Those are the personas, right? You never allow at your steering wheel. You hate it. It's really so not you. But then again, the challenge is to better understand, to have empathy for that part of yourself that you've cast away, and to try to get it closer and see what possible benefits that kind of behavior that's so against your natural vibe, right? What kind of thing it could bring you. To give you an example, I was really irritated by what we would call in Dutch a bitneuker. And that was one of those guys who would really he needed everything to be reported to 12 digits behind the comma, and spreadsheet management to the max. And I was so much against giving him the data that he needed. I was a Scrum Master and I had to provide these numbers. And I was like, oh, not into that. But, there's also some good in being very strict and clear, and it creates some kind of transparency, and right. So you have to try to find out what it is. And once you get that key to better understand, then it will be easier for you to communicate with those people that irritated you before. It will make your life as a person, you will expand your possibility for sure. Okay.
We actually had a quite cool comment. We also have a few Calimeros fighting for justice.
Calimeros. Yeah. So this is, I think, about what I wanted to share with you. Yeah. What I will do, I will post a link to the PDF about effective servant leadership, so you can have another read on everything that I've said. If you want, there's on Jamboard 12 some takeaways or drop some remarks that you have for me. If you want to reach out to collaborate or think a bit more about the curriculum, so the curriculum is all the fancy stuff that we want to teach people.
Sorry, 17.
Oh, sorry, is it 17? Okay, excuse me. So if you have ideas like, so I will be in this servant. What I think in effective servant leadership is going to be included. What is going to be included is stuff like mental models, systems thinking, axis of change, mindfulness, micro skills, if that rings a bell, transactional analysis, behavior patterns, dealing with resistance, dealing with your own emotions, of course, transfer and counter transfer. Does that ring a bell? Yeah, positive psychology, of course. And we're working on your soft skills, being able to coach leadership, because we have difficulties. Most people have difficulties. Some lean thinking, some systems thinking. Yeah, a little bit about adoption, not too much because we know that already. If there's a question about where do I start doing an adoption, well, that would be good to discuss that, but it would be the minority of things that I think that we need to give a lot of attention to. There's not good trainings where you can learn about that. And then I think some stuff that we need to do as well to become effective is to really understand design thinking and optimizing for customer value. Those kind of things are related as well. So it's not all fluffy stuff about me and the internal person and the people in my head. There's also some real things that we need to discuss about the organization and the product aspects of our work. But the majority of techniques that you will learn, or that I think that could be beneficial for us, are related to coaching techniques and understanding ourselves better in the context of agile transformations. All right. So Bogdan, is that can people collect the PDF afterwards when I paste the link? Is that the way it goes? Yeah.
Yes, and we will also post this on our YouTube channel.
Yeah, very good, very good. So yeah, to summarize everything, like in a nutshell. I think I tried to point out that there is something missing in the majority of training that we get to do our profession. I think with effective servant leadership, or ESL for short, I'm trying to set the next step towards giving people better support for doing the work that we do and to face the challenges that we have and turn those challenges really into goals for them. And making life easier, really. And I've seen a lot of how do you call that? Black snow. Is that it? I've had a lot of trouble through my career, and this is just my learning that I want to share with other people. And I called it effective servant leadership. Well, so that's it. I'm still 4 minutes before schedule. I'm a Scrum Master, man. I love timing. And if there's any question or remark that you want to fire out to me, then please do so right now.
So, Roland, how long is this ESL training going to take? 1 day, 2 days, 3 days?
No. So remember, I did this survey, and the majority of the people wanted to have 3 days, but that's way too little. So the trade-off is 4 days, and it's going to be spread over 4 weeks. So it's 1 day a week, and you will get, so that's 8 hours of training per day, but you will have at least 8 to 10 hours of additional work during that week. And I would prefer to do it even over a longer stretch of time, but I'm thinking about organizing sessions for people who follow the training, like terugkomdag, like, you can do this recap day and then discuss how things are going, and then maybe go over material again. And as more and more people will be focusing on the same domains of expertise, we can maybe do that in the form of like more of collaboration sessions. And then I don't know, that's September 16 I'm going to run the first training, and after that I think the need will be clear. The way I think the need will be there, but we'll see how the people in the training will react. I think there will be follow-up sessions after that, recap sessions, to make sure that we continue learning and discuss our challenges. Okay.
Also, one question: Dutch or English for the first session?
It's going to be English only. I'm not going to do it in Dutch.
So where do we sign up, or is other?
Yeah, so to be quite honest, the last of my priority list was to make sure that people could sign up with a fancy thing on my website. So if you just drop me an email that you're interested, wait a little bit until you get the PDF, read it again, because there's also, I got some very strong pushback on, I wanted to share this with everybody, but my peers told me not to do so. So they advised me to use very strict entry criteria, like years of expertise, psychology balance. So you have to do an intake. We need to talk. I need to know how much experience you have. Because if we've got like 2 people in the class or 3 people who still need to do PSM1, that's going to degrade the quality of the training, and we cannot spend time on that. So we need to have the real experienced guys to join the training, and only those. So this is going to be strict entry criteria, and maybe that turns you off, but still. So I would say read the PDF, and if you're still interested, the fastest way, the most secure way of getting to sign in is to just send me an email. For now. Yeah.
Okay, so maybe last question. I don't want to hijack everybody's time, but how many seats are available? Let's say I can find the people with me who are in those entry criteria.
I'm thinking of 15 to maximum 20 people, and there's going to be 2 coaches.
Okay.
But
Thanks.
no more than 20. Absolutely not.
Awesome. Thanks.
Yep. Anybody else? Question?
Yeah, a question from my side. First of all, thank you for this insightful presentation. And there's a question: what kind of maybe additional sources can we use in order to improve our skills to be better, like a Scrum Master, like a Agile Coach, like a change manager and transformation coach?
Yes.
So what would you suggest?
Yes. So my suggestion is to read the PDF very carefully that I will post later on. Once so there's this competency donut in there, and there's a lot of information about areas of expertise that I've been follow training in. That helped me a lot. So for instance, that transactional analysis thing, and those are all hooks for you to read into to get more effective as a servant leader. But the big but here is that I am really convinced that you need to do this instead of read about it. It's very good that you understand that there is transactional analysis and how it works, but it is of no use if you cannot do it. Because once you're back at work, you're going to have to do it and not talk about it. Okay?
Yep.
Any other questions? Well, that's it. Excellent. So I want to thank you all for your time. And I wish you a very good weekend, although it's maybe still a bit early, but the weather is good. So I'm not going to work anymore for the rest of the week. I decided I'm going to enjoy the weather. Okay.
Okay.
Bye bye.
Thanks a lot, Roland.
Thank
All right,
you.
thanks, Bogdan, for putting this together.
Yep, no problem. Talk to you later.
Just so you know,
Bye.
guys,
Thank you,
just so
Roland.
you know, we have also Scrum Wednesdays next week. We're having another speaker. It will be Miloš Zekovic, certified team coach. He'll also cover coaching and choosing your path in a plethora of other skills. Like basically, one of the ideas we want to cover there is how to choose what's your focus, what's your forte, and what would you actually like to do as an agile coach, or do you want to really to be an agile coach, perchance a Scrum Master or product owner? Maybe, you know, thinking about your career generally and not forcing any option as a more better career perspective, but finding your right balance. After that, we'll have Ozren Crnogorac, and that's still a topic in progress. Third week, we're hosting Ralph Jocham with some product owner basics. And after that, we'll see how it goes. Maybe we'll cover servant leadership. I would actually like to have a panel on it, because I read quite a number of interesting articles claiming servant leadership is more of an anecdote and there's no hard facts on it. I tend to disagree, but I would like to raise it as a topic as well.
Like it.
So please do follow us, do join in, and thanks once more, Roland, for this great session.
Yeah.
Ogden, for the English only lazy people, are these all in English or the Serbian, or what's the mix?
The next two will be in what we call a federal language. So the Balkan mishmash language, yeah, whatever you want to call it, Serbian, Croatian, Macedonian, Bosnian, whatever. And after that, the other ones will be in English.
I think Stephen had a problem with that. He wanted to fight with you about it. Since y'all like to fight.
Let's do it in Dutch. I propose Dutch language. I don't speak any federal language.
It's easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah. Like another framework, you know, right?
Yeah. Okay, guys, stay safe. Have a great day. See you next week, or see you whenever.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Bye.
Have a nice evening.
Thanks,
Guys,
Roland.
bye-bye.
Bye.
Bogdan, do you want to stay for a minute? Yeah.